Hey, look, it's chapter 6, college degrees. Starring the blue blur. What's up, everybody? This is chapter 6. College degrees. Is a college degree necessary? Not really. That's the whole chapter. But no, that's not the whole chapter. If you have a solid portfolio, most employers won't need a degree even for entry-level positions. This is true. Now, you will get different information on this, but I'm telling you from my perspective and where I worked and as the industry is moving forward, it used to be like circa 2010 or whatever, you still needed an art degree, and that was very important. Degrees are becoming less and less important. That's not to say that they won't help you, but it's not required, and in some cases doesn't even really help if your portfolio or your experience level or both are outstanding. Portfolio is still kind of going to be king. Degrees in art used to matter a lot more prior to 2010. Hey, since then, the industry has changed and realized a lot of hires based off degrees didn't yield any better results than those hired solely on portfolios. This is true. This is actually how I got hired into AAA. When everybody I was working with had a degree, and that caused some weird social issues within the company at the time, but it's very, very common now. There are rare exceptions, but ultimately portfolio will get you the interview, and how you learned your skills and put your portfolio together is less important. So that is to say, what you are showing is paramount, and how you got there less important, right? So if you got there by way of college or by some other way, you're self-taught like me, it doesn't matter. That doesn't mean the degree is useless, though. Let's take a look at what that means. Plenty of artists get hired with degrees, but as time goes on, fewer and fewer get hired because of their degree. It isn't a perfect science, so going the route of college and getting a degree is a gamble. And it is a big gamble, and it is an expensive one. So let's look at what a degree can help you with. How can a degree help? Degrees can get you some focused training and peers to work with and around. For a lot of people, this is a huge thing. I've spoken with a lot of people, and I will talk constantly about how I learned on my own, and I was kind of siphoned or what do you call it, separate from other people and stuff, and that worked great for me. There's other people who can only work in an office, and by way of that can only learn around other people or with already provided lesson plans and such. You can get these outside of college, but it's something that college can present, and being around people can be a huge motivator for when you learn and how you learn. Degrees can get you past ATS screening. That's just true. It's fucked up, right? You're paying to bypass ATS sometimes. Often, it offers focused and curated resources. That's kind of just what you're paying for, right? You're paying for instructors that are provided, lesson plans that are provided, curated resources by way of the college, but that can vary in quality and quantity. So again, not always guaranteed. Support from professionals. Mileage may vary. Again, how many people have you talked to that is like, wow, this instructor really got me where I needed to go? And how many times, usually at least equal, you've heard people going, this instructor ruined my care for art, or how it was done, or used bias to guide me in the wrong direction, or set me back, whatever. I worked with a person who specifically quit art for 7 years because of a terrible professor. They're people, so it's really just, it's going to depend. Degrees are good for local networking if you're aiming for a job in your general area. They're less useful outside of that microcosm. That is to say that if you're going into college specifically for networking, which a lot of people now will go, well, if the networking is the number one benefit, but you're looking to move across the country, that networking degrades in reliability and quality as you move away from that area. Because a lot of those people are going to help you get work in that local area because that's where they are. Colleges can have internship and work placement programs. This is very true. In fact, a lot of internships will only take on people through the colleges they're associated with. This was an issue at Blizzard where myself and associates and other people were trying to get it so that they wouldn't just pull interns from colleges, because this also kind of biased internships towards people who had a certain level of income, meaning people from poorer areas couldn't afford college or didn't go to college and suddenly didn't have internships available to them, even though for all purposes involved, their skill level would have been perfect to get them into an internship and start them on the path of a career in game dev. Some jobs do still require one. This is true. I'm of the mind that this is weirdly archaic when it comes to art. I would say maybe technical jobs, this is a little more, if you're a tech artist, sure, you're leaning into the programming sphere, maybe. But again, if somebody's really kicking ass in an area, I just don't see why they would need a piece of paper that said they kicked ass in that area. But some jobs definitely feel that, and this is going to get you past that hurdle. And a lot of positions that still require one, they are very serious. They just won't look at your resume if it doesn't have college on it. Can help you if your portfolio sucks? I'm holding my hands out to the side in a comedic fashion. This is true, though. Sometimes it'll give you the edge. I've seen it once. I'm sure it happens all the time, where people are like, well, this portfolio is whatever, but their experience and their college degree is pretty good, and that's just gonna, mileage will vary, as always. Oh, doesn't it help? Well, Sonic, focus tends to be more and more on your hard skills than soft skills. We'll get into what that means later, but essentially it means it's going to teach you technical stuff, but it won't fill in the blanks for the well-rounded person you're going to need to be when you go into the industry. Many jobs do not require one. Well, here we are. Your grades won't matter for an art job. I've discussed this with Moose before and other people as well. Once you get there, it's not going to really matter that you performed really, really well in school. It's going to matter what you can do, what your portfolio does, what your experience was. So you can kind of be shit in college and also be good in college. And as long as you got a degree, that's all that really mattered. And a lot of times that degree doesn't matter. So what were you doing? You're investing hopefully in yourself, but you can do that in and outside of school. You get out only what you put in. You can get that in and out of school, like I said. So it's really going to be, what are you making of the resources? And the best people who've succeeded within college arenas and moved in the industry are people who probably would have succeeded the same way by teaching themselves. They just made better uses of those resources. Is that you? This is for your consideration. I'm not telling you not to go to college. I'm not telling you to go to college. I'm telling you that college is probably not required if you're a certain personality that can kind of self-start and get yourself to a degree of skill. You are not guaranteed a job with a degree. Your investment into a degree will need to be paid back regardless. I know a lot of people who went to college for art. I know a lot of those people who never worked in art. I know all of those people are still paying back their degrees. That sucks. And that's the reality of it. You're not guaranteed a job. I've known plenty of people who got jobs without a degree and plenty of people who didn't get them with. You're just going to have to, it's a gamble. You play the game of life. At the beginning, it's like, do you want to go the college route or not? And you're like, well, that's going to really depend on how the cards play out later. And we don't have that information now. Welcome to it. It really is life. Debt. Hey, you want to owe a lot of money? Good. That's what college is. So, it can help you, right? But it's not guaranteed to help you. And it's a lot of money to take on. And as time moves on, game dev art specific jobs are requiring this less and less. So that's something you should think about as you move forward. You have a high chance of outdated information. This one sucks. A lot of times people have come in and they're like, I'm ready for game dev pipelines or whatever. And they had instructors that maybe worked in the industry 8 years ago or something. And we don't even do shit that way anymore. You know what I mean? You get this on YouTube too, though, to be fair. So you have this risk outside of college as well, to be completely fair. It's just, you get told this is how they do things. This is what it's done like. This is the tools you'll use. You never use Blender. And it's completely wrong. It might have been right before, but now it's just a universal untruth. So be careful. You can always learn all the skills you will need without university. That's just true. If if you want to, all that information you need is going to be out there. All the people you need to talk to are going to be out there. You can get instructors not through college. You can have mentorships. You can figure it out your own. All of that. What about game dev degrees? Game dev degrees don't have a lot of benefit beyond what you learn in school. Now, game dev degrees tend to be a generalized degree that sets you up for a game dev job by kind of touching on a bunch of different subjects. The degree itself won't usually put you above anyone with a good portfolio who is also applying and aren't always respected because they tend to be generalist degrees. This is a huge problem. And actually, 2 different jobs that I've worked at, people look down actively on game dev degrees and try to avoid people who have gotten them. That's not always going to be the case, but just as a heads up, generalized game dev degrees aren't the gold that they tend to be presented as. Many of the courses are too shallow for real application. I've run into this personally working with people who came out of game dev degrees. They were hired, but they were like, oh yeah, I know all about Unity, I know all about this, I know about that. They didn't know much at all. Like, they knew how to open the program, they knew what some things were used for, but they never really had active experience in it because the class course levels just kind of touched on the surface of everything and didn't really go any deeper. It is generally better to get a primary degree in something game dev adjacent with a secondary focus in game dev than it is to get a game dev degree. Now, what that means is focusing on something specific rather than the generalized degree, but you can still have, a secondary focus in game dev if you want. You just want to specialize in something. You want to have a deep skill in something. Having one deep skill is better than having no deep skills at all across the board. A jack of all trades, master of none is kind of a bullshit statement. I've known people who are jack of all trades and mastered of most of those. I'm actually one of those people. But you can be a jack of all trades, master of none, where you just aren't really good at any of these things because you never took the time or were given the chance to go deep. And that's what you want to avoid. A specialized degree will allow you to work in and out of game dev. A game dev degree will likely not help you get a job outside of game dev. It means what it says. The words are true. Okay? So game dev adjacent work is always a nice back pocket backup safety measure in case you don't want to stay in game dev or you don't continue to work in game dev. But a game dev degree ain't going to help you outside of that. Okay? But a specialized degree, you can get a lot of jobs with that. You don't need a degree to get into game dev, but what else can help? What are your alternatives, Sonic? Alternatives are mentors, communities, creating or accessing personal course goals, networking on your own. All of these are options. All of these are available. Don't fall into the trap that you have to pay for education. You don't anymore. It might be a little harder. You'll have to put some work in, but it's an option. Personal projects can make up for lack of a degree, especially if you're making a whole game. Beyond true. In fact, if you finished a complete game and you have a game dev and you have I was going to say an opponent, but somebody else is applying for your same job that you're going to knock them the fuck out. If you have a whole game made and it's really good, their degree is going to go, you can make a game. And your game's going to go, I did make a game. Guess who wins most of the time? Resources are more plentiful online than ever before. Anything you can learn in college, you can learn on your own for free. It's true, but it's not the perfect miracle cure that it sounds like. Sometimes, again, you have to navigate misinformation. A lot of people on YouTube, because everybody's like, oh, you can learn on YouTube. Yes, but you have to navigate the bad actors on YouTube that are just saying they know something when it's not true, or saying the right thing to get them your subscription and money, but just aren't honest about it. A lot of people will claim false credentials. There's no regulation for teaching on YouTube. You know what I mean? It's like driving for Uber. You just sign up and do it. So be careful. Whatever your choice, make an informed one. You can always contact folks associated with university, folks who've gone to university, and folks outside of it to better inform yourself for what might work for you. I'm a really good example of somebody who didn't go to college, but had a really weird, varied, and successful career. I know a few people who have had terrible careers and didn't go to college. So just find people you can talk to, discuss what you find your questions are, and find what suits you. College isn't the devil, it isn't going to ruin you, but it is a business. So keep that in mind. Their goal is to get money more than it is to give you an education. Always remember college is a business. Hey, look at that. And their priority is not teaching you what you need or setting you up for success. It's getting all your rings. Regardless, remember that being good at coursework does not mean being good in the field. Okay? You can ace everything in college and fall right on your face when it comes to actual game dev execution. You're going to need to be informed and make sure that you inform yourself on how you're being informed. In the end, Sonic's dead. Nepotism and a good portfolio are worth more than a degree most of the time. That's just true. Nepotism being, gaining a job by way of someone you know or someone you're related to, and a good portfolio was all of chapter 5, baby. So if you want to get a job, those are more reliable, okay? Doesn't mean that you won't get mileage with a degree, but that's what I have to say on that. So, Q&A time. Let's get into it. You got postings? No? Okay. So, one question. For people who haven't been to college and want to network in their industry by harnessing the mighty power of nepotism, what's a good way to respectfully make connections, especially for people outside the industry who haven't broken in yet? So when you want to connect in order to get a job, my recommendation, and I'm not saying that it wouldn't work, but my recommendation is don't connect solely to get a job and that's it. You want to get natural connections that you can reliably get to know and you have a natural overlap so that you can organically integrate with that person or in that community, right? So like there's people, I'll just use our Discord as an example, who have been on here for a long time. We've gotten to know each other. I understand where they're coming from, and we've kind of naturally become friends and overlapped our work, and we have interest in each other's work, and that becomes a good example of where if I understand their work ethic down the line, maybe I could recommend them for a job or, hire them into a company where I work or something like that. That's great. That's definitely nepotism, though. But if your only goal is like, oh, I'm going to network and I'm just going to meet people so that I can, as quickly as possible, get them to hire me in, that's probably not going to work and it will backfire a lot of the time, right? So you kind of have to put in the time, right? You have to get to know people, you have to join communities, you have to kind of invest, you have to actually care, and you're hoping to find people that can then care. Don't fool people into caring for you, or it's going to backfire and you will become known as a person who's just using people for work. It needs to kind of be a little more natural. Any other questions before we move on? We're all playing for it. I'm going to repeat it because Cami said it. Hopefully, you're networking because you want to get to know people and be part of that community, not just because they can help. That's just the shorthand of what I said. And that's a very important lesson to learn. Yeah, we got speed keyed. Countdown to next chapter. All right, we're moving on.